of the screen. It's right in the middle.
I presume that it has started because it changed to a different icon and it now says stop recording if you hover over it.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, then I will figure out what to do. Recording these things is something that I need to learn how to do for the library's other purposes. And so we'll figure out how to make all this work. So I'm glad to be with you here today, friends. Dr. Griffin, would you remind me of which class, exactly which class this is? Is this 8800?
It is, yes, sir. It's 88.
Okay, good. But this is not everyone's first semester.
It is.
It is their first semester. All right.
First semester, first course,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Well, we're glad that you chose Piedmont College. The library is very much part of your success. And one of the things that I want to make sure that you leave this meeting knowing is how you can easily get help from us. And then in a few minutes, we will start addressing the very particular questions of how do you develop a search, how do you limit a search, and so forth. Let me mention two things to you that I just learned that actually makes participating in these meetings a bit easier. And that is, if you want to speak briefly, all you have to do, rather than fumbling around on the screen for the invisible unmute button, is press and hold the space bar. So press and hold the space bar unmutes you temporarily. When you release the space bar, then you're muted again. If you would like to speak for a more extended period, you can also press Alt-A. That mutes and unmutes. And you have to press it again in order to be muted or unmuted. So that's knowing that is a whole lot easier to be able to, makes your participation a whole lot easier rather than fumbling for the invisible mute unmute button. All right, let me share my screen with you. Actually, let me get on the screen what I would like to share with you. Dr. Griffin, can you see whether others may have joined the meeting, or do I need to pay attention to that? You're muted, Dr. Griffin.
If you want to make me a co-host, I can let students in that are waiting while you're presenting if you want to do that.
Let me do that. I would hate for anyone to be left out in the cold. How do I do that from the toolbar?
Let's see.
Oh, let me click on participants, and then there are you, and I am now clicking make you a co-host.
Okay.
All right, well, I just learned something. All right, now let me get something on my screen, namely the library's homepage, and I will share that screen with you. Okay, does everyone see the library's homepage, library.piedmont.edu? Let me mention very quickly 2 or 3 things. This is actually covered in those short introductory videos I sent, but let me mention them again. The immediate way to get help from us is to call us on the telephone. There is a number there for the Arundel Library. You can see today's library hours, so you could easily know that you could call us and we'd be answering the phone. You click on calendars here on the screen. Here is the current schedule of the library. Here is a calendar that goes a year into the future, so you can know when you can easily get in touch with us readily by telephone. We also have a chat service that has gone offline for the day, but here you can, when the chat is active, then you can start a chat with us and get a pretty immediate response. Chatting is somewhat limited depending on how good a typist you or the person on the other end is. If you have a more complex question, I would suggest choose one of these links. They're on every library webpage called Ask a Librarian. You can come over here and fill out this form and write a question like, I'm interested in differentiation in art classes in middle school, and I'm not finding anything. What do you suggest? That's a kind of more complex question that we would get into a lengthier exchange. We monitor this email account on a daily basis, so you could expect a pretty quick turnaround on questions like that. So that is how to get help from us. We may call you on the phone if we need to. We may also offer you a Zoom session if it seems to you or to us that that would be most advantageous for the kind of discussion. Sometimes if we want to demonstrate things on the screen, then we will offer you a Zoom presentation rather than something by phone. Okay, so the library's homepage. There are 2 or 3 particular features that I want to point out. I presume that all of you are remote from the Demarest campus. Is that the case? Where are y'all located?
I'm not quite sure. I think it's the Athens or maybe Demarest, but it's online.
Okay. Oh, you're online students rather than some physical location. I just wanted to be sure. Okay. So more than likely, your primary needs are going to be satisfied with the online materials of the library. I would like to mention to you in passing that there are printed books that are available to you in the Demarest Library, and we will be glad to send those to you. I will address how to make that happen a little bit later. But let's get to the things that you need most readily, and that will be online journal articles and ebooks. So now you're working at the EDS level. You will be required to go more deeply into research than you might have been at the master's level. The master's level, typically, you're not necessarily concerned to go very far back into the roots of things. That is, the research for your classes at the EDS level will go into a great deal more depth, looking perhaps for the roots of some things. And there will be many of you who will go on to get your doctorate, in which case, as Dr. Griffin knows, you may have to go back to before the beginning of time in order to trace the roots of the issues and ideas that your dissertation may be part of. So I mention this because what I'm going to be recommending are 2 pathways to find research materials. One is much more general than the other, but let's start with the more general one. And that is this opening tab here on the library's homepage. You see that there are articles, books, online research, and reference. This Articles Plus tab knows about everything that you as Piedmont College students have access to. I might add that this is material, all of this, citations and journal articles and ebooks in literally the millions of articles and ebooks and so forth, are not accessible to you except through your library. This is for part of the internet that you pay for. There are uses for the free internet that you will find, but to satisfy your academic research, you need to go through the library. So this service called, let me pump this up just a bit. The service called Discovery Galileo searches everything that you have access to. And so if you are interested in Well, differentiation, there's one it's already chosen for us. If you're interested in differentiation in the classroom, then you can certainly start here. A point that I always try to make when I'm presenting to education majors is this is not medicine where there are a great many technical terms with very precise meanings. Education, you adapts a huge number of commonly used words and applies to them special meanings. Differentiation is hardly a word that is peculiar to education. So Dr. Griffin suggested that one of the things that you were interested in was how can I characterize my topic? How can I limit my topic? And the most powerful way to limit it is to make sure that you understand the word's context. In other words, we don't need to know about differentiation of species in zoology or biology. We need to know about differentiation in education. So you could put in differentiation education, and you've already limited your search. You could also, rather than doing it that way, you could put in differentiation and say, I want to search education only, using this subject limiter that's available on the opening screen. You could also limit immediately and say, I only want to see scholarly or peer-reviewed or academic is another one of those synonyms, academic materials. So why don't we start with, I want to find differentiation in education and scholarly peer-reviewed materials only. Okay, we got over 400,000 results. That's a lot to work your way through. I know that there are many of you, I know that all of you specialize. I know that all of you either are in elementary school, middle school, high school. Some of you specialize in special ed or exceptional children. Most of you, whether you specialize in that area or not, have to be aware of meeting the needs of exceptional children. And there are some of you, I'll bet, who actually are coaches and would be interested in topics that have to do with athletics in schools, that sort of thing. So I'm going through this exercise of using all these words to suggest that the words are the primary way that you can narrow and focus your topic. I can certainly show you some other more mechanical ways that are over on the left side of the screen here about refining your results, and I will. But the words that you choose are the most important thing. We know this. We've all been searching Google for the last 20 years, and if you don't choose the right words, you won't get anything helpful. So I would like to show you some techniques now about how you can choose words and phrases to begin to limit your topic. When I was a child, I went to elementary school. In other parts of the country, other people went to something that was called primary school. At some point in the 1980s, this was recharacterized as early childhood education. So you have three different terms that were used at different times by different writers to characterize the same thing. So if you want to search much more precisely, number one, look for your specialty. I want differentiation at say grades K through 5 or so. That's what these terms mean. There are a couple of other things to point out, and that is this. Do you see, I wish I could pull that open just a bit more, but do you see that I just put double quotes around early childhood. What does that do? It makes the words early childhood into a phrase. And phrase searching, when you're using common words in specialized way, is really your friend, because we don't just want the word early and maybe the word childhood also. We want the phrase early childhood. You'll find that use of the double quotes works in almost every service that the library provides you. It also works in Google searching. It will vastly improve your Google results if you need to search for phrases, because it will put the phrase results at the top of the results display. So let's see what we can do. What we can do with a search that means that of differentiation and the words the word elementary or the word primary or the phrase early childhood. So you can see you've cut your search result in half. Let's talk about how we can limit some more. You very well may be concerned with reading instruction and how to use differentiation techniques in the reading classroom. And so once again, you have considerably limited your result. But you still have 100,000 results to go through. How can you limit further using some more mechanical means? By mechanical, I mean over here on the left side of the screen under refine results. If you scroll down a little bit, you can limit your results to time periods, and that's important. If you were in a master's program, you'd probably be limited to the most current 10 years. I'm going to limit this to, say, the most current 30, just to take an example. What would that be? That would be 1991, or is that 40 years? No, that's 30 years. Well, you just learned something about your topic. It didn't limit it that much. That means that there's been a whole lot of writing about differentiation in the last 30 years. It's been a very important scholarly topic. You may want to come down here to publication type and limit to academic journals. That cuts it down a little bit further. You may want to take a look at these subjects over here on the side, because they can be indicative of how often subject heading words occur. And you may want to choose, I'm interested in differentiation in the elementary classroom, and I would like to know in particular something about child development, and in particular the development of cognition. So all of a sudden you have a much smaller result set. So those are some mechanical ways that you can use the limiters over on the left side of this screen to limit your search, so that you're not utterly overwhelmed by 100,000 hits and want to quit. Now, how can you find more precise ways of understanding your topic and limiting your search? Well, this is where you probably need to launch into reading a little bit about some of the results that you see here at the top of your search. Cognitive predictors of difficulties in math and reading, high risk of learning disabilities. Well, all right. How can I learn more about this article? Well, here is a sentence. Cognitive skill differences that are apparent early, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that looks like a description of something and it's truncated because you see an ellipsis there. Where's the rest of whatever that is, which is, it's the abstract, it's the summary, which is your friend that can tell you almost immediately whether you need to pursue this article or not. So as you can see, this is a list of brief information about these articles. Let's click on the title and you can get a great deal more about this particular article. For instance, here is the entire abstract. Let's pump that up one more level. You can now read this abstract and know whether this article is something that you need to pursue. This one has something called an impact statement. I've never seen that before. Here are subject headings: comorbidity, reading, reading ability, sustained attention, cognitive ability. These are all words that may, if this article turns out to be on target for what you're interested in, then pay attention to these words, because you can now reuse them to shape your searching more and more precisely. All right. Any questions or comments so far?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Why, or maybe you would, why would you not click the full text button when you're searching? You know, you click like the
Okay.
peer review, but would you click full text?
That's an excellent question. If you click full text, then you will not see citations, and there are many more citations that don't have the full text attached than there are that do. Now, you have access to tens of millions of journal articles in full text, but you have access to many, many more citations. And perhaps the point to be made here is, when you're really limited in what your professors want you to be looking at the undergraduate and often at the master's level, then maybe you would only want to look at the full text, the things that you can get immediately. But if you find your way to a citation that is of interest to you and there's no full text, then the library can borrow a copy of that article and provide it to you. That's interlibrary loan. And what I would suggest is that as you go further into your EDS coursework, you will see that the depth that you may have to go into and the specialization of the topics that you may be required or become interested in, you don't want to miss out on citations that you don't even see. So on the other hand, if you need a quick result, like you need to do a reading and review an article and so forth for class in a half an hour, well then limit it to full text. All right.
Thank you.
Certainly. Okay, this is now too big to look at. There are a couple of other things I'd like to point out to you while we're on this screen. Yes, here is the PDF full text over here. It appears in this reader. You can download this, you can email it to yourself or others, and you can then read it at your own convenience. I do not suggest that you start in on printing anything until you want to read it, because I think most of us find it more comfortable to read in print rather than on a screen. But save yourself some money. Don't automatically print things. There are places where you can if you want to email this to yourself, create folders in your email application for your courses or your projects. But here, let me point out something that is very, very helpful about organizing your work. Here you have this article, Cognitive Predictors of Difficulties in Math and Reading. this is of passing interest to you today. In 3 months, you might say, because of a because of a direction that your interests have gone, that, oh, what was that article about cognitive predictors of difficulties? And you may not be able to find your way back to it easily. So something that I encourage you all to do on this system, by the way, let me show you a logo. You will hear us librarians call this well, the logo isn't there. This is called an EBSCO system. Oh, there's the EBSCO logo. Anyway, this system allows you to create what in Amazon is called wish lists. In other words, you can create an account on this system and you can save things, links to journal articles, links to ebooks in your own folder. And I'm going to sign into my folder, and you may very well see this login, sign in with your Piedmont College account. You've all been here. This is the same username and password that you use for every other college system, including Canvas. And now, it doesn't really look like it, but I am logged into my folder. You see this icon up here. The folder is now opened up. If I take a look at this, I could save article citations and article links here. So let's go back. Let's hover over this. You see this icon, the blue folder with the plus sign? I'm going to put that in my folder. I'm going to put this one in my folder that's called EDS8800. I'm going to put this one in my folder called Education 3339. If I now come over here and look at my folder, then under my folder articles, well, here's this one about cognitive predictors of difficulties. Here's the link to the full text. Now you have this, and if you ever need to come back to it, you can wonder, oh, I hope I put that in my folder, and you can come and find it. It's worth noting that down here toward the bottom of the left-hand side, you can create folders for your classes, for your papers, for your capstone project. When you get there, you can create folders and put article links and ebook links and so forth into that, so that you always have them at your disposal. Okay, let's go all the way back. How do I get back? Oh, back. That one's, there it is. Okay, now we're back to this brief list. And getting back to the point that Elizabeth, is that what we call you as Elizabeth? Yeah, that Elizabeth asked about. When I did this search and limited it, here are 2 full text articles. But let's say association between preschoolers' specific fine motor skills, etc., and later academic competencies. Let's say that that's a topic you're interested in, and you go over here and you read the abstract and you say, yes, I need to read this entire article, except there's no friendly PDF icon. There is this icon called Full Text Finder. Well, Full Text Finder is a service that's a helper service here that knows where all of the full text is located in any service that the library provides to you. And so if you click on Full Text Finder, you got a pop-up. Full Text Finder is searching for this article in JSTOR or one of the ProQuest services, or in Sage Premier, or several other services that it could possibly be in. And it says, I didn't find a full text source for this citation. However, obtain this item through interlibrary loan if Full Text Finder can't find it. If you click on this, you come over to a kind of blank screen, but now you know this is the login screen for the interlibrary loan service. You already have an account set up on this service. So if you click sign in, what you will see happen is this bibliographic information, the title, the authors, the name of the journal, the publication information, has already been harvested for you. The journal title is Frontiers in Psychology. The title of the article is the association having to do with motor skills and academic achievement. It's in volume 11 on those pages, published in that issue with that author. This is all the information that the library needs to request this article for you from another library. All you have to do is say, I am a graduate student in the School of Education, and click Submit Request. These requests come to us almost immediately. We process them on almost an everyday basis, and you can typically get a journal article back in about 72 hours, sometimes less. So even though I know you are working in an 8-week class context, I know that you have time to, because of the quick turnaround, you will have time to get an article in this way. So please don't hesitate to use it. Any questions or comments about any of this so far? Okay.
Does the article,
Yes,
would you send
Ted.
the article to, does the article come to us in email, or would we get an email saying that it was in the library? How do we access it once it's?
That's a good question. I just kind of presume that everyone knows certain things because I can do it in my sleep. When you place a request, you will get an email that acknowledges your request. If you have requested a journal article, when the article is available to you, then you will get an email that has a unique URL and password where you can pick up your article. You can also come to your account here in your this is a view of you. These are all the requests that I have placed recently for various reasons. You can also come here and see about the status of your request. For instance, something that I requested for a faculty member earlier today is in transit. You could also come here if it was available, and actually here is an article that I requested for someone, and this says available to view. And these are, when these things come to your ILL account, they are available for about 30 days. And you can come here and you can either go from the email that you receive, or you can come here. You can click on available to view, and this will actually give you the ability to download the article and save it, and then look at it, do whatever you would like to do with it. Any other questions along this line? All right. So let me log out of here and close this. Bump this. Actually, let me bump this back down just a bit. Where do I want to go? Let me go back to my results list. So one of the important points that I would like to make for you today is how can you find precise words to limit your searching? And you would know now that you can come here for the words that are embedded in the abstracts, the words that are embedded in subject headings. That's a way that you can do that. We've talked about mechanical ways like limiting by date and some other values. Let me take off a limiter and let me see something. No, I'll have to do a different search to demonstrate what I want to do next, because let's actually, let me go back here. Okay, differentiation. I'm just going to search very, very generally this time. This is obviously a screen, by the way, that has limiters on it. If you would like to limit your search from here, you can. So let's search for differentiation. And oh ho, what are these things up here? Well, some of them are ebooks. And I want you to know how to navigate the ebooks and make best use of them. So I'm going to choose this ebook limiter so we can have some on the screen. Okay, well, here's an interesting one. Differentiation from planning to practice, grades 6 through 12. So you are interested in that. Here is a description, which is the same thing as an abstract or summary. And you realize, yes, I need to take a look at what might be inside this ebook. So if you come here and click on PDF full text, it's going to present the ebook to you in a reader that is similar to the journal article reader. You see here that there's an index. You could click on the index and you could take a look at the index. There it is. You can now go to these page numbers. You could take a look at this chapter, and there it is. So far, we haven't really done anything that you can't do with a printed book. However, here is how you really exploit ebooks, and you can't do it with a printed book. Do you see over here? Some of these things are terribly small. And no matter what that's because I am, there it is. You see over here in the left-hand column, search within. That means exactly what it says. It means search the text of this ebook. So let's say that you are interested in differentiation in the music classroom. Well, okay. Here we have a search. Here is every listing with the word music, and hopefully also the word classroom on the same page. That's really what it's doing here. So you can now mine the text for very, very closely for what is of interest to you. And as you can see, there are several, and they look like they are actually suggestions about how you would use music in the classroom in which you are trying to use differentiated instruction. So this is a very powerful thing that you cannot do, obviously, with a printed book. And this is how graduate students exploit books anyway. This is not War and Peace. You're not reading it from beginning to end. You want to mine these books, which are oftentimes anthologies of research articles, for what is of interest to you. So this is how you can do that. Okay. Something I'll point out to you, in the vast majority of cases, vast majority of cases, you don't need to fool with downloading these ebooks. You have to have a helper application to do it. It's kind of complicated. I would like to point out that if you come to a field that says something about concurrent user level, unlimited user access, it means that 400 people can access this ebook at the same time and everyone will be able to. So in that sense, the thing to do is to save this to your folder so you can come back to it rather than going through what's necessary to download the text. Oh, here's something else. When you display a full record for this book or for a journal article, there are tools over here on the right side of the page. This is where you could email something to yourself or others. But the thing I want to point out to you is the Cite tool. The Cite tool can be your friend. It doesn't relieve you of the necessity of knowing the intimate details of how to format a citation, but it certainly saves you the labor of having to transcribe the information that you need for a citation. So you're going to be using APA. So there's the APA citation for this ebook. You can now copy it and paste it into your bibliography. Now, again, you need to be certain that it's been formatted correctly. But I would say 98% or more of the time, you can rely on the content of this citation to be correct. So that can be very helpful to you. Okay. We've talked about some ways for you to limit your searching, to shape your searching to your own interests. We talked about how to combine terms using and or actually you could say differentiation, not species, in which case you wouldn't get anything in a particularly scientific context. We talked about phrase searching, how phrase searching, especially when you have common words in a professional context, like actually classroom management is another good example. If you search on classroom management, assuming that you can spell it, as separate words rather than as a phrase, you're going to get vastly more headings, or not headings, but results, because the word management is such a common word in all realms of language. And classroom is an incredibly common word, both in inside and outside education. So phrase searching using double quotes is a very important way of limiting your results. Okay, any questions or comments at this point? I wonder, if we assume that this should be an actual hour-long presentation, which is not a given, we have about 10 minutes or so. I wonder if any of you have questions about any of these mechanics or questions about a topic that you might already be interested in, that you'd like some ideas about. Okay. Well, I hope that this has been useful to you. I think that that's about all that I can reasonably mention in an hour, especially at the close of a work day. Of course, your personal work day, I guess, will continue for several more hours. I like to close by saying, don't suffer in silence. Research is a messy and sometimes difficult thing to accomplish. That's what we librarians are here to help you with. And so I would like to simply close by saying, you see now how you can get help from us please don't hesitate to call on us. And with that, Dr. Griffin,
Thank you so much, Dean Glass. We appreciate it. I know this helped quite a bit. They have one more major assignment to do, so I know this will be very helpful to them for this course, but then for the rest of the program as well. So,
well, we're here to help, so please don't hesitate to contact us.
okay. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Glad to be with you today. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, wait, we're going to stay a minute. Don't disconnect us all, Dean Glass. You can go away, but we're going to hang around.
Oh, you're going to just pick up the meeting, so I'll leave.
Yes, please. Thanks.
You're the co-host.